should know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
You have found the 22 November Network, the voice of the grassroots JFK research community. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast with your host, your boy, Rob Clark.
Hello, what's up everybody, and welcome, as you heard, to the 22 November Network and the Lone Gunman Podcast. This is your boy Rob Clark, coming at you for episode number 19. Whew, I can't believe it's 19. It's crazy. So let me get a couple things out of the way first. How cool was it to have me and Doug on each other's podcast? It's crazy. I still can't believe we did it and we pulled it off, and it sounded pretty damn decent. You know, it's not superb 100% quality, but I think it worked just fine. And it's awesome. And, we were together to announce the formation of the 22 November Network, a place where, the grassroots JFK community can come and hear us talk about research, can interact with us, can read about research, and we can grow together as a community and, stand beside each other and move forward. And together we can get big things done and big things accomplished. Believe that. And if you've already listened to Doug's podcast, then you've heard this announcement. We are pleased to announce that we are going to be live and on the scene at the Warren Report conference. A critical look at the Warren Report 50 years later. And it's going to be at the Crown Plaza East Hotel in Alexandria, Virginia on September 26th through the 28th. And it's a 3-day conference, and me and Doug are going to be live and on the scene. We're going to be doing interviews, we're going to be doing videos, we're going to be tweeting live about what's going on, and we'd really like you to join us there in person, because we are going to have a good time. This will be my first conference JFK related ever, so I'm really excited. And I'm also really excited to see Doug in person. And we are going to have fun no matter what happens. Believe that. But yeah, if you can join us, that would be great. It's, like I said, it's in Alexandria, Virginia, so it's pretty accessible from anywhere in the mid to upper East Coast to throughout the Midwest. It's a short hop, plane wise. But if you can't, if it's out of your reach, if it's too far away, or you can't afford to come, we're going to be your eyes and ears and boots on the ground. Some of the speakers they already have lined up include Phil Nelson, Peter Janney, Doug Horn, people like that. But for the complete list of everything, go to changehistjfk.blogspot.com. That's changehistjfk.blogspot.com for more details or to order your tickets. All the information is going to be right there, and I put up a special post about it on our website, the 22 November Network. So if you can't remember all that, just go to our website and you can get through to the conference site from there. and it's put on by the JFK Historical Society. And much thanks to Dr. Denton for having us there. And we'll be talking about it more as we lead up to the conference and the more complete schedule comes out. But we're really excited about doing that, and we're really excited to be able to bring it to you if you cannot come in person. Like I said, we urge everyone to come and check it out. We're going to have fun no matter what, and we'd love to see you there. We'd love to meet all of our friends that we talk to, and meet them in person, and that would be awesome. Moving on, today, as we dive back into the research belly of the beast, we're going to be examining Mr. Jacob Rubenstein. Not Ted Rubenstein, Jack Rubenstein. Jack Ruby, if you will. And what I'd like to talk about Jack Ruby is, did he know Oswald? Now, there's been many allegations over the years that he did. And one of the ones that I find the most credible comes from Beverly Oliver, the Babushka lady. And she speaks about being in the Carousel Club, and her and another famous dancer, Jada, were at a table with Jack Ruby and Lee Oswald, whom Jack Ruby introduces. This is my friend Lee Oswald. He's with the CIA, and I think this was a couple weeks before the assassination. And Beverly Oliver was 17 at the time, so she wasn't drinking, she wasn't smoking, she didn't do drugs. She remembers very clearly that night and meeting him, because it stuck out in her head. Well, that's weird, to introduce to somebody being somebody from the CIA. And of course, she's not the only one that puts Oswald in the Carousel Club. There's various reports, and for me to go through them all here would be very tedious. But I would like to talk about another one, a Mr. Carroll Jarnigan. He was a Dallas attorney, and normally attorneys are pretty credible people. They're most of them have money, and they're successful, and really have no reason to make up a lie or a story, even for any reason, unless they have some kind of a mental problem where they want to be famous. But normally attorneys are, pretty level-headed. They're very clear thinkers, and they're very successful and have money. And the police really went out of their way to discredit Mr. Jarnigan and what he was doing and what his story was. Now, his story is a pretty fascinating one, if true, of course, to where he relates where he was in the Carousel Club one night. And here, I'll read it to you. Carroll Jarnigan, Ruby witness, possible Oswald witness, Dallas attorney. On December 5th, 1963, the FBI received the following letter statement from Jarnigan. He wrote Hoover personally. Okay, it's Dear Mr. Hoover, on October 4th, 1963, so it was October 4th, I was in the Carousel in Dallas, Texas. While there, I heard Jack Ruby talking to a man using the name of H.L. Lee. These men were talking about plans to kill the governor of Texas. This information was passed on to the Texas Department of Public Safety on October 5th by telephone. On Sunday, November 24th, I definitely realized that the picture in the 23rd November 1963 Dallas Times-Herald of Lee Harvey Oswald was a picture of the man using the name of H.L. Lee, whose conversation with Jack Ruby I had overheard back on October 4th. According to Jarnigan, Ruby was plotting to kill Connolly because the governor would not cooperate with organized crime. The FBI sent a copy of Jarnigan's document to Dallas District Attorney Henry Wade, who dismissed it with the statement, "It didn't ring true to me." Now, Jarnigan was not called as a witness to the Warren Commission, and Wade told the Warren Commission that Jarnigan had been given a polygraph examination, which indicated that he had been in the carousel but had not heard a suspicious conversation. Now, the conversation that Jarnigan states that he heard goes a little something like this, and it's pretty crazy. Lee, you said the boys in Chicago want to get rid of the Attorney General? Ruby, yes, but it can't be done. It would get the feds into everything. Lee, well, there's a way to get rid of him without killing him. Ruby, how's that? Lee, I can shoot his brother. Ruby, you mean the president? Lee, yes, the president. Ruby, but that wouldn't be patriotic. Lee, well, what's the difference between shooting the governor and shooting the president? Ruby, it would get the FBI into it. Lee, I can still do it. All I need is my rifle and a tall building, but it will take time, maybe 6 months to find the right place, but I'll have to have some money to live on while I do the planning. Ruby, them boys have plenty of money, but he may never come to Dallas. Lee, it doesn't have to be done in Dallas. I can go to Kansas City or Miami or any place where I can find the right setup. Ruby, before the boys will let you do this job, you must be certain that you can get away, and with the FBI around, that won't be easy. Lee, it will require the right setup and a split-second timing, but I can do it and can get away. Ruby, you must be absolutely sure about getting away. If the setup is not just right, it will be better to miss the chance than to take a chance on getting caught. As long as you get away, they will blame it on some crackpot, or the communists, or even politics. But nobody must ever know where the money is coming from for this job. Lee, well, where is the money coming from? Ruby, you've heard of the Black Hand of death? Lee, the Mafia? Ruby, yes, the Mafia. Lee, are you with the Mafia? Ruby, you're asking too many questions. Remember, they know who you are already, but you don't know them. They'll be watching you, but Oswald. Lee, don't call me by that name, just call me Lee. Ruby, alright Lee, I like you, but before you agree to do this job, the boys insist that I tell you, if you get caught, they will come to see me, because I am the one telling them that you can do the job, and the one they trust to pay you, and they will not trust you to not talk. They will want me to kill you, wherever you are, whether you're in jail or in some military prison, or wherever they have you. And if you do get away without being caught, you must never tell anybody who had the job done. Even if you get away to Cuba, you must not talk. If word ever got out that the Mafia had done this job, they would run out of the country. If you do talk, then the boys will make me follow you, wherever you go, hunt you and kill you. If I don't, they will kill me and send somebody else to kill you. And if you ever tell anybody who pays you for doing this job, the Mafia will kill anybody that you've told. Lee, looking up and staring at the witness. Jarnigan, who is that? He's got to be from the FBI. He's heard everything we said. We'll have to get rid of him. Ruby turns and looks at the witness. He can't hear us from there. He's watching the show. Lee, he's been listening to everything we said. I'll get rid of him. Ruby, not here. It would get my club involved. Besides, they always work in pairs. If he's from the FBI, there will be another one somewhere else in the club. We'll have to think of something. Now, for Jarnigan to remember that much of a detailed conversation, hearing it from maybe like the next table over in a crowded bar, very noisy, is a little suspect, okay? And the Dallas police think so too. So, on March 2nd, 1964, Chief of Police Curry requests a polygraph examination be given to Mr. Carroll Jarnigan. And they nail his balls to the wall pretty good. Here's a list of the pertinent questions and answers given. From here on, do you intend to answer any questions with the truth? Answer yes. Indication false. That means no. Have you ever told the complete truth in this affidavit? Answer, yes. Indication, false. Did you actually overhear this conversation between Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald? Answer, yes. Indication, false. Were you drinking that night? Answer, yes. Indication, true. Did you actually see Oswald and Ruby at the table on the night of October 4th? Answer, yes. Indication, false. Did you hear this conversation between these two men on that night? Answer, yes. Indication, false. Did you hear the name of H.L. Lee in this conversation? Answer, yes. Indication, false. Is any part of this affidavit false? Answer, no. Indication, false. Did you deliberately make up this affidavit to get some publicity? Answer, no. Indication, false. Were you drunk that night? Answer, yes. Indication, true. Did you ever hear anything that you put in this affidavit? Or did you hear everything that you put in this affidavit? Answer, yes. Indication, false. After the examination, it is the opinion of the examiner that Mr. Jarnigan did not overhear this conversation and that he made the story up. Respectfully submitted, Paul Bentley, Polygraph Examiner. Wow. Okay, so pretty much they've established that this guy was there that night, but he saw nothing and he was drunk. That's their truth, or their version of the truth anyway. And there's a pretty famous picture I'll put up on the 22 November website along with this podcast. A picture of what some people say looks a hell of a lot like Lee Oswald sitting in the Carousel Club. Now, it's not a positive identification, but it is an interesting photo to say the least. There's been, Beverly Oliver also has Ferry visiting the club. She said she met and talked with him on a number of occasions. That they weren't like friends, but they were casual acquaintances. And that he was a very odd person, very intelligent. She said he was basically just a weirdo, which fits right in with just about every description we've heard about Ferry. But she puts him in the Carousel Club a couple of times before the assassination. Now, what's interesting to me are the claims that I've heard about Jack Ruby being involved with gun running, which I've touched on in earlier podcasts about him trying to get in touch with McCown. Castro's a gun runner. And, it's pretty much been established that he was running guns to Cuba. He even visited Cuba on occasion and met with Santo Trafficante. Him and his buddy Louis McWillie, who had mafia ties. And to think that Jack Ruby did not have mafia ties is a little ludicrous. I think we've pretty much established that is the case. People in his position, being these nightclub owners, they're on the fringe of a legitimate business, and like I said before, there was a big gun running thing going from Dallas, or from Chicago to Dallas to New Orleans to Miami, and it was huge. I mean, it was big time, and these guys were moving guns. And what's also interesting is where Lee Oswald supposedly ordered this man Licor Carcano from. That would be Klein's Sporting Goods of, you guessed it, Chicago, Illinois. And not a lot of people make that connection because, Jack Ruby had the connections back to Chicago. That's where he was from. That's where he grew up. That's where he knew all of his people. He had family back in Chicago. He had another brother and a sister back in Chicago. And if you believe Judith Very Baker's story, she puts Ruby visiting New Orleans, visiting David Ferry, and Lee Oswald. Now, everybody's heard of Carlos Marcello, the head of the crime boss there in New Orleans. But a few people know that his territory extended into Texas and included Dallas. That was part of his territory, part of what he was in charge of. And it kind of, you had Chicago, where you had Sam Giancana, who Doug ties into this whole thing by having Lauren Hall, who admitted to receiving, was it $20,000 or $30,000 coming from Sam Giancana, and him accepting it, and he said the money came from the CIA, which is crazy. But Sam Giancana was a Chicago Mafia. Okay, now we have a guy by the name of Larry Myers, who people, like Joan Mellon, believe actually gave the order to Ruby to kill Oswald. And we know, of course, at least people that aren't naive, that Ruby was stalking Oswald. He was acting like he was a reporter. He even corrected some people at a certain time about the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. And he was acting very distraught and very manic in his actions after the assassination and the day after and the night after, and until he actually did it on Sunday morning. And Lauren Hall also admits connection to Santo Trafficante, who was the man in Florida, Miami, the mafia's guy there, in an exchange he had with A.J. Weberman. And I will read this to you now because it is dynamic. Hall. Well, see, the premise of this is Weberman had called him and asked him, did he know Jerry Patrick Hemming? Okay. Hall. Yeah, I wouldn't know anybody like that. Anybody with a name like Jerry Patrick Hemming has either got to be a communist or CIA. Weberman. Well, I think this man was a dedicated anti-communist. Hall. Who? Jerry Patrick Hemming? If it's the one I heard about, he's CIA. I've got nothing to talk to you about. Anybody who associates with Gerald Patrick Hemming has either got to be CIA, FBI, or an asshole. I got nothing to say. Hey, nobody's going to print anything I got to say. Nobody. And that's fine. I'm in no hurry to get my head blowed off. Hemming is a CIA punk. I've known the son of a bitch for 15 years. He turned his own goddamn crews in so he wouldn't have to go to Cuba. He has fingered me on my own goddamn deals and caused me to get arrested. Aw, fuck. Hey man, as it stands right now, there's only 2 of us left alive. That's me and Santo Trafficante. As far as I'm concerned, we're both gonna stay alive because I ain't gonna say shit. I ain't gonna have some asshole come up to me and blow me away. The only thing I'm saying is that if you have any assholes come near me, you better have a fucking army with you, baby, 'cause I got my shit together and I'll blow the first one of you motherfuckers away that even comes near me. And that you can put in print. Wow. Alright. Now, if you, from listening to Doug's podcast, you know about Lauren Hall. Okay? He is one bad dude. Okay? And he does not mess around. And that's just a little insight into his personality. But what's interesting is where he says, that's me and Santo Trafficante. As far as I'm concerned, we're the only 2 left because I ain't gonna say shit. Now, this is a man who has personally associated himself with Sam Giancana and Santo Trafficante. Okay? Now, we know from Beckham, he ties in relationship between Carlos Marcello and David Ferry and running a package to Dallas to Lawrence Howard, his associate, Halls that is, his mercenary friend. And we can tie these three mafia points in together. And we know about the rifle. Thank you, Doug. This 30-06 that was obtained by Lauren Hall from Hathcock. And what a lot of people don't know is there was a 30-06 cartridge found in Dealey Plaza. Okay? It was found some years later, but found nonetheless. And I believe it was found on top of the county records building. A 6.5 millimeter Carcano, which is the average velocity of a 30-06. While this would increase the impact of a bullet much greater. Now this is talking about using a sabot, where you would put a Mannlicher Carcano bullet to be able to be fired out of a 30-06. It would increase the feet per second, 2,000 feet per second up to 2,600 feet per second, which is the average velocity of the 30-06. While this would increase the impact of the bullet much greater, you would compromise accuracy for several reasons. Lack of stability, as the bullet would not spiral properly down the barrel, as it does not meet the barrel twist properly because of the lack of stability and true trajectory from the barrel, and due to the fact that this bullet is not designed to carry this much velocity. If one was firing a level shot at a range within 50 yards, the bullet would likely strike somewhere on the target, but to fire from this range and elevation it's highly doubtful it would come close to the limo unless the shot had been practiced. The cartridge found was supposedly crimped in a way to suggest that a sabot round had been used in it, and on the seat of the cartridge was stamped Twin Cities Arsenal 1954. Wow. And in an interview with Jerry Patrick Hemming, he was watching the footage after the president had been assassinated, and he saw a rifle on television, and he said, "Oh my God, this son of a bitch just has my rifle." You know, and only someone pretty familiar with guns could be able to tell the difference between a Johnson 30-06 and a Mannlicher Carcano from seeing it on television. And if there's anybody that could do it, I'm pretty sure Jerry Hemming could do it, especially if it was his gun that he's looking at. But that ties all these guys in with mafia ties. And now, you might say, and I know there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with the mafia ties, but you have to remember, okay, these were the guys, and the mercenaries, of course, but the mafia was like the long arm of the CIA. Not only did the CIA use the mafia for many of its illegal operations that they had going on inside the United States, they also, they would use these mercenaries as well for a lot of the illegal things they were doing overseas. But they were kind of in bed together when it comes to things that go on inside the United States, like drug running, gun running, hits, rub-outs. Because, of course the CIA is not allowed to operate inside the borders of the United States. But the mafia is. And I'll tell you one thing, the mafia was not too happy with JFK and his brother Bobby. That is for certain. And it doesn't just start later in the 60s when they're really pushing on Hoffa and the Teamsters, for these racketeering charges. It's I've got a little clip I'd like to play for you, and it's of JFK before he was president. I think it was 1957. He was lambasting Hoffa, and you can tell by the tone of his voice that he is pissed off at Hoffa, and Hoffa is pissed off at him. So here we go. Let's play this little clip.
He introduced a bill to correct abuses of big business and big labor. Opposing the bill was Jimmy Hoffa, leader of the Teamsters Union.
I would be very happy to have our legal counsel here, our legislative representative here, assisting me in spending as much time as necessary to acquaint the American people with the fact that this is a strike-breaking, union-busting bill. Mr. Hoffa, this bill is not a strike-breaking, union-busting bill. You're the best argument I know for it. Your testimony here this afternoon, your complete indifference to the fact that numerous people who hold responsible positions in your union come before this committee and take the Fifth Amendment because an honest answer might tend to incriminate them. Your complete indifference to it, I think, makes this bill essential.
Now, there's a little taste of JFK going at it with Jimmy Hoffa when he was in the Congress. And believe me, there is no love lost between Hoffa and the Mafia and the Kennedys. That is for certain. And if you've ever watched the movie Hoffa with Jack Nicholson playing Hoffa, most JFK people overlook it, but the Kennedys figuring very big into that movie and Hoffa's actions. And I'm telling you, they were at war with each other. They were having some battles. And I'm going to play a little clip of Bobby Kennedy and Hoffa going at it. This is interesting too because it contains Bobby's asking him about a threat that Hoffa made to him that he was gonna break his back. Check this out.
But no one rankled him more than Jimmy Hoffa. Hoffa was president of the Brotherhood of Teamsters, the country's largest, richest, and one of its most corrupt unions. Bobby said he detected in Hoffa absolute evilness.
You say anything to the effect that the jury treated you very well, that you thought that you could do very well before a jury. I know that's pretty ridiculous. Did you say anything like that? I did not. And I appeal to the chair that that be taken out of the record.
Bobby turned his investigation of Hoffa into a holy cause, holding hearings month after month, and calling more than 1,500 witnesses. Punishing Hoffa became a crusade.
You've got people in Detroit, at least 15 who have a police record. You've got Joey Glimko in Chicago. I say you're not tough enough to get rid of these people, man.
But Hoffa was contemptuous. He denied any wrongdoing, taunting the crusading young investigator.
Did you say that SOB, I'll break his back? Who? You. Say to who? To anyone. Figure his speech. I don't even know who I was talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mr. Hoffa, all I'm trying to find out, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm trying to find out whose back you were going to break.
Figure his speech. Figure his speech.
I used to love, Hoffa said, to bug the little bastard.
Wow. Figure of speech. So, as you can see, there was no love lost between these guys. I'm telling you. And Jimmy Hoffa can be tied back to the Chicago mob, which of course was run by Giancana and boys, and who Ruby likely had ties with. Now, an interesting note, which Ted Rubenstein in an earlier podcast pointed out when I stated that Jack Ruby and David Ferrie had called the same number in Chicago a couple weeks before the assassination. I said it was to Larry Myers, but it was actually to his to a woman, and I forget her name right now. I want to say her Ayers maybe. But it was basically Myers' mistress. Probably a safe number, to reach him at, or at least get messages to him, so as not to disturb him at home. So the connections here that can be drawn are crazy. And of course we can put Larry Myers staying at the Cabana Hotel the night before the assassination, and Jack Ruby going there to have dinner with him. This is the night before. Or no, the night after the assassination. Or it was the night of. I think it was the night of the assassination. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused here. Yes, it was the Friday night that he went and had dinner at the Cabana with Larry Myers. Also, the night before the assassination, this is what I want to say. We're going to talk about Oswald and Ruby possibly knowing each other. And I believe I touched on it a little bit in the Oswald Double podcast, but he was seen by a waitress at the Lucas B&B diner, seated with the man who the waitress said, was Lee Harvey Oswald, and that they sat at a little table for about 45 minutes or so, and that all Jack Ruby had was something to drink, maybe some coffee, and that the other man, Lee Oswald, had a meal, and it just took place approximately between 1 and 2 in the morning. The only odd thing about it is, she stated that Lee Oswald, if it was Lee Oswald, he had a small scar on his left cheek. But we know Oswald didn't have a scar on his left cheek. But William Seymour did. And I'll post that picture up also on the 22 November Network site that you can find in relation to this podcast. I'm going to put a post up on there and throw everything up there I got on all this. And of course you can tie William Seymour back in with the Interpen boys and Lawrence Howard and Lauren Hall, and probably being them three that visited Sylvia Odio. So was Oswald involved, or was he always just a patsy? That's the question. Because if upon returning from Russia he was given an assignment to infiltrate this quote-unquote Texas mafia and their gun running and their anti-Castro activities, he would have been in deep. He would have been in really deep, from what we see him doing. And it just boggles the mind to contemplate all the possibilities, because we just don't know for sure. And it's, that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us investigating this thing and looking into stuff. And I'm going to be interested to see this new movie coming out that DiCaprio and De Niro are doing from the Lamar Waldron book, because it ties in heavily with the mafia. We know Sam Giancana told his brother that he was behind having JFK killed. I think it's called, what was it, Sam and the Boys, something like that. I have the book, but I haven't read it in years. I probably should have went back and looked at it before we got into all this, but it's tucked away in a dark, dusty crate in the bowels of the Lone Gunman podcast studio. So maybe I'll review it and brush up on it and touch on it in the next one. Because I know a lot of people just don't put any weight with the mafia theory, but when you examine Ruby, it's almost undeniable that he was mobbed up from his neck to his shoelaces, and it's pretty much undeniable. And when you see the contempt, that Hoffa and these Teamsters, he was busting his balls, man. To just keep calling him back month after month after month after month, and interviewing 1,500 witnesses, but he never could make anything stick. That's the thing. Hoffa won. Hoffa beat their ass. Of course, he had, But if Hoffa was involved with the assassination and maybe coordinating it, or not coordinating it, but coordinating the conversation between these mob bosses and maybe convincing them that it needed to be done, I'm sure Carlos Marcello said, "I'm down for that." And Traficante was losing his ass because he wanted his casinos back in Cuba. I'm sure he wouldn't have had a problem with it either. So yeah, lots to talk about, lots to think about, and hopefully Ted Rubenstein will have some thoughts on this. I know he looks into the mafia quite extensively, and I'm just a cursory reader about the mafia. I really don't know a whole lot about it, but the connections are pretty undeniable. That does it for this week. Another edition of the Lone Gunman Podcast. And once again, let me say thank you. Thank you for checking our stuff out, checking out 22 November Network. All of our bloggers are up and running. They all have a post up already on the site, so please go read them. They're not diving into research yet. They're mainly just introductory articles or columns, as Doug calls them, or blogs, or whatever you want to call them. We call this assassination conversation. We'll call that assassination reading. They will be getting into the nitty gritty. They are all three very good, dedicated researchers. But please visit the site. I'll show them some love. Feel free to comment. You can comment directly on the WordPress site or the Facebook site. And keep your eyes and ears open about this conference coming up in the end of September. Like I said, you can go to the website and get all the information on that as well. And of course, we will be talking about that more as it draws nearer. And that is it for this week, people. Please, if you like what you hear and you like what you see on 22 November Network, do not hesitate to pop links up everywhere you know possible. On Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, whatever you're on, Match.com, it doesn't matter. Post them up. Just, if you're listening to this, post it in your status. Say, hey, I'm listening to the Lone Gunman Podcast on the 22 November Network. Here's a link. I like it. You should too. Share with your friends, because that's the only way we're going to get bigger. Truthfully, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate everything. Please keep listening. Please keep sharing. Keep reading. We're trying to get one big site up, and it's already up. But we want it to be like a beacon in the night for JFK researchers to come check out and participate in, because we're not just doing this for us. We're doing it for you as well. That does it for tonight. This son of a bitch is in the can, beamed up to the satellite, directly to your ears. This is Rob Clark, out.